So this is going to be reacting to Here's My Story. I became a millionaire and left my toxic parents without a penny. Alright, let's watch it.
Welcome to the Here's My Story channel. I'm Alfie. My grandparents were farmers who lived in a tiny village. I would visit them as soon as school was out for summer break. They grew vegetables on their farm. We woke with the sun and worked all day in the vegetable garden. At the end of each day, I'd be so tired, but happy and at peace. But something unexpected happened that summer. My grandfather and I were hard at work in the veggie garden one day. He suddenly collapsed, holding his chest. I called 911 in a panic. "Alfie, you're such a great kid," my grandfather said. "I wish I could have more time with you. Take care of your grandmother for me. I'm sure you'll grow up to be a fine young man." He died before the ambulance arrived. At the funeral, my grandma and I cried the whole time, holding each other. My dad didn't offer any comfort to Grandma and didn't seem to care about Grandpa's passing. He never visited, even though they were his parents. I'd be willing to bet he couldn't even remember the last time he'd seen them. During the funeral, I overheard my parents whispering to each other. "Can't we just put her in a retirement home?" Mom said. "I don't want her living with us." Dad replied, "I don't want that either, but we have to take her in for a while. My father put all their savings in my mother's bank account. She must have at least $150K in there. At least, if we can get our hands on that money, we can open the gas station of our dreams." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could anyone be thinking about money at a time like this? Despite endlessly dreaming about money, they were always broke. I wanted to humiliate them, call them out with everyone. But I stayed silent. Grandma would have to live in a retirement home if they didn't get the money, and that was the last thing I wanted. The following day, Dad asked Grandma for the money in her bank account. Grandma said no. "That is Alfie's college fund. Sell the house and the land. Start your business with the money from the sale. I don't care. Just don't touch Alfie's money," she said firmly. When he heard that, Dad's mood took a turn. "Mom, who would buy a property in the middle of nowhere? Even if somebody wanted to, it's only worth a few $1,000s. Give us the money. We've been planning for this gas station for years. Alfie doesn't need to go to college. He hasn't got the brains for it anyway." Dad put me down all the time. I could ignore that, but I couldn't believe he would force my grandmother to give up the money just to live with us. I didn't even know my grandparents had saved their money for her. "Grandma," I said, "it's okay to give Dad the money in the bank. If I have to choose between you and college, I choose you." I meant every word. My parents got the money and Grandma moved right into my room, even though I had lost one of the two people I loved the most. Thankfully, one of them had come to live with me. Grandpa's death broke my heart, but at least I had this. My parents immediately got to work setting up the gas station. I rarely saw them. I started a small garden in front of our house full of tomatoes, carrots, broccoli, and potatoes. Grandma deserved to eat fresh vegetables like she did back on the farm. My parents saw me working in the garden as they left for work one morning. "That kid is such a disappointment," Dad scoffed. "We're out building the busiest gas station in town and he's still trying to grow potatoes. Why? Because he's a potato head." They laughed so hard the neighborhood shook and sped off in their new car. At first it seemed like business was booming. Between the luxury SUV, shopping bags with high-end labels, and a maid, Mom and Dad's luck looked like it was finally changing. Of course, they kept it all to themselves, even the maid. It seemed weird my parents could make so much money in such a short time running a gas station. But at the time, more time with the business meant they barely spent any time at home. For the most part, Grandma and I lived in peace. Unfortunately, something happened that changed everything. One night, the police raided our house. They took my parents away. It came as a shock until we found out why. In our part of the country, oil is a big industry. We have colossal rigs and refineries that extract and process crude oil straight from the ground. Apparently, my parents had found a shady investor while opening the station, an investor with a long criminal rap sheet. Their